Solicitor General, is that right?
That's correct.
You also had some religion clause cases too, though, didn't you?
I believe I've had one.
So let's talk about when you were Solicitor General defending the governor's executive order that closed churches in the state. Do you remember that executive order?
Yes, Senator.
So the executive order said that all indoor gatherings of 10 or more people were banned, with some exceptions. Do you recall?
I believe it said that there was no limits on outdoor gatherings, and if it was not possible to have an outdoor gathering, then you could have it inside with 10 people.
Okay, so if it's 10 or more people, you can't have it indoors unless it is impossible. Here's what you told the court. Here's who you told the court would absolutely have to be able to meet indoors and function indoors, regardless of the governor's executive order. Airports, buses, train terminals, medical facilities, shopping centers, Walmart, Lowe's, and other retail businesses of all kinds. At the same time, you told the court churches should be closed. Churches should have to meet outside or just not meet at all. Why is that? Why is it that Lowe's and Walmart, they absolutely have to be open? They're essential. Churches, good luck to you.
Well, Senator, of course.
Brace yourselves for a Senate smackdown. Senator Hawley grills Biden's pick on church closures during the pandemic. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, states implemented strict measures to limit indoor gatherings. Retail stores stayed open while churches were forced to close. Senator Josh Hawley argued this violated the First Amendment's guarantee of free exercise of religion. Hawley pressed the nominee on why retail spaces were deemed essential but churches were not. He pointed out the inconsistencies. People gathered in large numbers in stores like Walmart, touching shared surfaces and spending significant time indoors. The nominee defended the policy, citing expert epidemiological advice and Supreme Court rulings. However, Hawley wasn't satisfied. He highlighted that churches, unlike retail stores, had to justify their objections to local law enforcement, essentially putting police in the position of evaluating religious practices.
Designing that policy, I was a lawyer defending a client.
But didn't you? I thought that you were the Solicitor General making these arguments.
Senator, I had a brief involvement in that case, and I actually think my involvement.
Wait. So you weren't? These aren't your arguments? You didn't say this to the court?
Senator, I never filed a brief. So what happened is the complaint was filed, and before.
You weren't Solicitor General defending the executive order at the time?
Oh, yes, Senator.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's just skip all that and let's just get to the substance here. You were the Solicitor General. You defended it. You made the arguments. So why is it that Walmart and Lowe's can be open, but churches had to be closed?
Senator, I think that if you study that case,
I've read the case. I have it right here.
The procedural history, you'll see that it actually reflects my respect for religious liberty. So at that time, in May of 2020, the prevailing law was Chief Justice.
Why is it respectful to close churches, but not to close Walmart and Lowe's? Listen, I got nothing against Walmart and Lowe's. I like those stores fine. I was at both of them last weekend. But I was also in church last weekend. And what the procedural history shows is, in jurisdiction after jurisdiction during COVID, governments discriminated, and I use that word advisedly, discriminated against people of faith, particularly Christian churches, Catholic churches, Orthodox Jewish synagogues, including your state, including this executive order. I want to know why. Why was it that you argued that churches ought to be closed, but Lowe's could be open? Explain that to me.
Senator, so what Chief Justice Roberts said in the South Bay decision was that those kind of retail establishments have short-lived durations, and for the relevantly similar activity was
short-lived duration. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, Senator, if I could,
was it a mistake to close churches while you allowed Lowe's and Walmart to be open?
So that is what the Supreme Court held about a year later, and the point I'm trying to make.
I'm asking you, yes. Was it a mistake for you to argue to this court that it was fine to close these churches, but Lowe's and Walmart could be open? Do you regret it?
Senator, I had a duty to represent my client.
You don't regret it? You have the benefit of retrospect now. Do you regret it?
Senator, I don't think it would be appropriate for me to criticize the policy decisions that I was asked to.
You have no problem with it. Here's what else you told the court. You also told the court that if a church raised an objection to this, if the church said, no, we think we need to meet indoors, who did they have to answer to? They had to explain themselves to the sheriff or local law enforcement, the cops. And the cops would then make a determination about the church's theology. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
Yes, Senator.
Yeah. And so, do you remember what the court said about that?
So the court enjoined the governor's order in that
respect. The court says this court has grave concerns about how that answer, your answer, comports with the free exercise clause. Then the court went on to say that, you couldn't enforce the law. Why not? The government cannot treat, I'm quoting, cannot treat religious worship as a world apart from non-religious activities with no good, or more importantly, no constitutional explanation. What do you have to say about that?
Senator?
The court later struck down this policy, affirming that the government can't treat religious worship differently from other secular activities without a compelling reason. Hawley argued this showed a disregard for constitutional rights. The larger issue here, in times of crisis, how far can the government go in restricting fundamental freedoms? And what happens when those restrictions disproportionately target certain groups, like people of faith? Hawley made it clear, constitutional rights are not optional, and they don't vanish in emergencies. He vowed not to support any nominee who defended policies that infringed on these rights. This exchange serves as a stark reminder of how fragile our freedoms can be when tested. Like, subscribe, and share if you found this insightful. Stay informed, stay engaged, and take care.